Today we're here to demystify priming the oil system in the engine. I'm working on a 400 Ford in a 78 F250. Did a little bit of research, found out the oil pump turns counterclockwise. Double checked that with the cam gear and the distributor gear. Measured the cavity in the bottom of the distributor shaft, which is what turns the oil pump in this. It's right on 7mm. Here, I'll show you what the inside of that shaft looks like. There's my distributor, upside down and lodged, so you can see this. Down inside there, that's hollow. Can you see in the hollow there, that's hex. Measured that out, it comes out right on 7mm. No, it's not actually metric, but that was the easier one to measure than trying to get down to 64ths. At that, I figured I'd grab an 8mm socket, so I had a little bit of play. 1/4 inch drive socket, so it's narrow. Deep socket, so it gets down on there real nice. I've got an extension that's peened on the end a little bit, so the socket sticks on there really hard. It's I use it for working in oddball places to get to things. That's what I use the extension for. Because the depth on this motor, it's 2 extensions and a 1/4 inch drive ratchet. Distributor hole right there. Way deep down inside of that is where your oil pump rod is. Shaft. Oil pump shaft. So, your ratchet goes down in there gently. I'm set to counterclockwise on my ratchet. Now, I've already primed this once, so it's going to be faster and easier in this than it really is in real life. When I primed it, I left the tubing off the back of my gauge and just put it in a little waste oil bucket. Turned it a few times until I pumped all the air out of my tubing. You could feel as you turned it when you were done pumping air and you're moving oil because the resistance was a whole lot harder. Now if I turn this with 2 hands, holding the extension straight with one hand and turning the ratchet with the other, you can turn it relatively quickly with this, and I can get it up over 50 psi. For the sake of the video, I got one hand on the camera, so it's going to be ratchet and the ratchet like this. You'll hear it get a little quicker as we go. So we're going to watch the oil pressure gauge. 25, 30. There we go. That's about all I can get going ratchet style. Arm's already a little bit tired because I've done this for several minutes already. But the idea is you want to keep doing this long enough at 25 or more psi to get oil all the way up your push rods, get oil up into your heads, get oil running back down the lifter galley, get everything wet so that when you start your engine the first time, nothing is dry and you don't have any internal damage from dry bearings. Doesn't take a whole lot to do it. There's what I'm doing. Maintaining 25 psi. When I'm doing it with 2 hands, managing to maintain 30 plus, about 3 minutes is usually enough to get everything up, get all the way through the push rods, get the oil filter filled. That's 3 minutes after I felt it starting to build pressure. Make sure that your extensions are clean. Make sure that your socket is clean. You don't want to introduce anything into your oil system. Make sure you've got something that's going to stay on your extension really nicely when you pull it out. Because one thing you don't want to do is to drop your socket down in there. Really easy, relatively inexpensive gauge from Shucks. I'm not exactly worried about the accuracy on it. I want to know that I'm building good pressure, and I want to keep pumping oil at pressure for a few minutes. Make sure that my motor starts, everything's wet. That's a good way to help prevent premature damage. Very simple set of tools. Doesn't take a lot to do it. Like I said, I used, oh, now I can't see it on here, 8mm on this one because that's just a whisker bigger, about 1mm bigger than the actual shaft itself. You don't want to get anything stuck down in there. Buddy, that's deep. And if you got to get down in there to get something out, you're going to be in a world of trouble. Here, I'll get a flashlight in there. Way down there in the bottom. See that center nub? That's the oil pump shaft. So if you put your motor together, you'll know where that is. If not, typically speaking, it's driven off the bottom of your distributor. Look at the bottom of your distributor and figure out what it's going to take to drive it. Hope this helps. Happy motoring.